Okay, let's dive in. We're going deep today on, well, a truly unique life,
Mhm.
Betty Marion White. An American actress, comedian, writer, television personality. I mean, her career spanned 9 decades.
9. It's almost hard to grasp.
Right. From 1930 all the way to 2021, actively working. That incredible longevity, that's really what we want to unpack.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating isn't just the length, it's the endurance. We're pulling together a lot of research today, looking at her whole journey. And
Mhm.
our mission isn't just like listing accomplishments. It's about trying to quickly get a sense of the sheer scale of her legacy. How did she manage these record-breaking achievements? How does she stay so relevant for, well, 91 years?
And the amount of information out there about her is just enormous. You mentioned scale. Think about this. The details of her life are available in, I don't know, dozens of languages. Africans, Arabic, Japanese, Spanish.
Yeah,
It shows this massive global reach that, honestly, very few entertainers ever achieve.
no doubt. And when you think about her career path, she started in radio, moved to live TV, then tape sitcoms, reality TV, and incredibly, even became this sort of social media darling at 90.
Right.
So the real question isn't just what she did, it's how. How did she keep adapting her skills, her persona, across all these huge cultural shifts, these technological leaps? We need to pinpoint the specific records, the pioneering moves that let her keep redefining success.
That's the perfect pivot point. She wasn't just part of the industry, she was actively shaping it.
Hmm.
So let's start right at the beginning. The foundation of this massive career, way before anyone was thinking about Rosen Island. Okay, Betty Marion White, born January 17th, 1922. Oak Park, Illinois. You might think, okay, typical Midwest start.
Mhm.
But the sources show her family background was actually quite varied.
It really was. I mean, she grew up to be this sort of classic American sweetheart, but her ancestry was actually a mix: Greek, English, Welsh, and Danish.
Hmm.
And those details, they kind of remind you that behind that maybe plain Jane persona everyone loved, there was this, well, broader background.
She was also an only child. Her dad, Horace White, was a lighting company executive, and her mom was a homemaker. But that stable start kind of ran right into a major national crisis.
Yeah, the family moved from
Yeah.
Illinois out to Los Angeles, California. And this was right in the middle of the Great Depression.
Wow.
We often just see that as a biographical fact, family moved. But think about what that means. Moving to L.A., to Hollywood, essentially,
Hmm.
during a massive economic downturn.
Yeah.
It means her formative years, high school, starting her career.
Mm.
It was all happening in this super competitive environment, scarce resources, everyone fighting for work. It must have built this incredible tenacity in her. That drive, that toughness, you kind of need that to fuel a 91-year run.
That economic pressure must have shaped her work ethic incredibly. She went to Horseman School in Beverly Hills, then Beverly Hills High. But here's the mind-blowing part, the thing that sets her apart from almost everyone else from that era. Her official years active, listed as 1930, 2021.
1930. Just stop and think about the world in 1930. She started performing professionally before commercial radio was even really a thing, decades before television existed as we know it.
So what was she doing then?
Well, early stuff,
Yeah.
experimental media, maybe some amateur theater, and then getting into radio. Radio is the real training ground,
Huh.
for that quick delivery, the timing she later perfected on game shows and sitcoms.
And then TV starts to arrive. Late 40s, early 50s. She wasn't just another actor jumping over from radio. She was actually, well, a pioneer. And an executive even.
This is where we really need to look beyond just the acting credits. That show, Life with Elizabeth in the early 50s, it's foundational.
Okay.
Not only did she star in it, but the sources confirm she was also a co-producer. Think about that. One of the earliest female television producers ever,
Wow.
at a time when women were almost always just in front of the camera.
That's a huge detail. She wasn't just hitting her marks and saying lines. She was involved in the business side, the creative decisions of an early sitcom.
Yeah, exactly. Life with Elizabeth started in 52. It was a scripted comedy, and it helped kind of define what sitcoms would become. Then later, she had A Date with the Angels in 57, 58. So by the end of the 1950s, she'd already built this legacy in both performance and production. For most people, that's a full career right there.
Yeah, seriously.
But for Betty White, it was just Act One.
And you have to think, that early experience, knowing the business side, must have given her a huge advantage in navigating the rest of her career. She knew how things worked from the inside.
So the professional side was building momentum. But her personal life, well, it took a few more turns. The sources mentioned 2 early marriages, both pretty short. Maybe they were necessary steps before she found her big love story.
Right. First, she married Dick Barker in 1945. He was a U.S. Army Air Corps pilot. The sources just call that one short-lived. Very concise.
Hmm.
Then, just 2 years later, 1947, she married Lane Allen, a Hollywood agent. That ended in divorce in 1949.
So you see these attempts at finding stability, maybe. Right as her career in this brand new medium, television, was taking off, it was probably a very volatile time professionally.
Yeah, makes sense.
And these experiences, they probably taught her a lot about what she really needed in a partner, someone who could handle the demands of her kind of career. And that contrast makes her later connection even more significant.
And that stability, the big one, it came, fittingly enough, through television itself. She met Alan Ludden, the TV host and personality on the set of his game show, Password.
1961, she was on as a celebrity guest panelist.
Perfect.
And it's really significant that they met on a game show set, isn't it? Because game shows became such a reliable part of her career later on, showcasing that quick wit. Apparently, he had to propose a few times before she said yes, which also says something about her independence, even in courtship. They finally got married June 14, 1963.
And the sources point out something important about their family life. They didn't have biological children together, but she became stepmother to Alan's 3 kids from his first marriage.
Right, so she stepped right into this established family unit. Even without experiencing motherhood in the, let's say, conventional way, she had this core family structure that probably provided a lot of the stability she needed for her increasingly busy work life.
But that partnership ended tragically. Alan Ludden died from stomach cancer, June 9, 1981. He was only 63.
And the timing,
Yeah.
that's just crushing. It happened right as her career was about to hit its absolute peak globally.
Yeah, think about it. She's coming off the end of the Mary Tyler Moore show, maybe starting to think about what would become the Golden Girls. And then she suffers this huge personal loss. Her professional life basically explodes right after her personal anchor is gone.
It really speaks volumes about her resilience, doesn't it? And the source material is very clear. Betty White never remarried after Alan died.
30 more years.
30 years of life, immense success, constant public eye, and she stayed devoted to his memory. It's a really powerful aspect of her later life story. That kind of singular focus. It mirrors her professional longevity in a way.
And there's that lovely, very permanent symbol of their bond right there in Hollywood. Her star on the Walk of Fame, 6747 Hollywood Boulevard, it's placed right next to Alan Ludden's star.
Forever side by side. It really underscores how important that relationship was. Maybe it was the foundation she needed for the incredible, sustained success that came next. It's hard to picture her taking on the sheer amount of work she did, especially the grind of a weekly sitcom, without that period of stability beforehand.
Okay, so that stability in the 60s and early 70s really set the stage for the massive global recognition that came in the 70s and 80s. This is when we get those iconic roles that just cemented her place in TV history forever, roles that introduced her to whole new generations.
And we really have to focus on the deliberate contrast between her 2 most famous characters from that era. First up, Sue Ann Nivens on The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Oh.
She joined the cast later in the show's run, and Sue Ann was like this total subversion of the sweet Betty White image people had.
Absolutely. Sue Ann hosted the Happy Homemaker show on the fictional TV station, all smiles and sweetness on camera.
Right.
But behind the scenes, she was this incredibly sharp-tongued, man-hungry, competitive character, just ruthless sometimes, but hilarious.
And that contrast, especially for a female character in the mid-70s, it was pretty revolutionary. Women on TV were usually mothers or supportive wives. White herself called Sue Ann cloying, but audiences loved it. It showed off her incredible comedic range and that she wasn't afraid to play against type.
And then, after Mary Tyler Moore ended, she pivots again to a character who's almost the polar opposite, Rose Nyland on The Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls. Culturally, that show was just massive. It premiered in 1985. And think about the premise, a primetime hit sitcom centered entirely on 4 older women.
Unheard of.
Dealing openly with aging, sex, friendship, money, career changes. Rose Nyland, the sweet, naive, often hilariously clueless woman from St. Olaf, Minnesota, she was the perfect innocent counterpoint to the sarcasm and worldliness of Dorothy, Blanche, and Sophia.
To successfully play 2 characters that different, the cynical Sue Ann and the naive Rose, and have both be massive, long-running hits back-to-back across almost 2 decades, that's incredible. It required a total reset of her whole comedic approach each time.
It really speaks to her knack for reinvention. And The Golden Girls wasn't just a hit with older viewers. It became this cultural touchstone for everyone.
Yeah.
But what's truly remarkable about Betty White isn't just those massive 80s and 90s successes. It's how she managed to stay relevant and even have another career surge well into her 80s and 90s.
That late career comeback was amazing. She landed another great role, Elka Ostrovsky, on the TV land sitcom Hot in Cleveland. That started in 2010.
And that role was so important because it proved she wasn't just a nostalgia act living off reruns. She was still a current, bankable star who could anchor a new show.
Hmm.
Elka was great, sharp-witted, a little cynical, but ultimately lovable. Kind of a mix of Rose's sweetness and Sue-Ann's hidden edge, maybe.
Yeah, good point. And then there were the guest appearances that just kept winning her awards, proving she was still nailing it. She won an Emmy for Guest Actress on The John Larroquette Show in '96, then again for Ally McBeal in 2000. Those wins showed she was still getting major recognition even when she wasn't the main star of a series.
But the real turning point, the thing that cemented her late career icon status, had to be hosting Saturday Night Live in 2010.
Oh yeah, that was huge.
And it wasn't even the network's idea initially. It came from this massive grassroots campaign on social media, on Facebook. It proved she could connect with audiences using the absolute latest tools of fame.
That SNL hosting gig really crystallized her image as America's favorite, slightly naughty, hilarious grandmother figure, and she totally ran with it, taking on some unique hosting jobs after that. We should mention her early hosting gig on Just Men, back in the 80s too. That was groundbreaking in its own way.
Definitely. And then came Betty White's Off Their Rockers, starting in 2011. The whole concept, seniors playing hidden camera pranks on younger people, it was perfect for her mischievous persona at that point. The humor came directly from flipping expectations about age.
And just to show you how far her reach extended, the sources even note she hosted WWE's Raw in February 2014.
Seriously, WWE.
Yep. From co-producing early TV to sitcom legend to reality host and even pro wrestling entertainment, she literally conquered every stage imaginable.
That omnipresence was undeniable, and the industry recognized it. NBC threw that huge Betty White's 90th birthday party special in January 2012, celebrating her while she was still working constantly.
Yeah, I remember that.
The number of stars who showed up from every single era of her career, it just highlighted that she wasn't just an actress anymore. She was like a living cultural monument.
It's a career path that just defies easy explanation, really, which brings us neatly to the actual records she set, because that's where the numbers truly show how unprecedented her longevity was. So when we look at the awards, the stats aren't just impressive, they basically rewrite the definition of a long, successful career. She won 7 Emmy Awards total, which is amazing in itself. But the record she holds for the span of nominations is just unbelievable.
This is probably the single most mind-boggling statistic about her entire professional life. Betty White holds the Guinness World Record for the longest span between Emmy nominations for performance.
61 years.
61 years of being nominated for performing at the highest level.
Yes, first nomination. 1951 for Life with Elizabeth, most recent performance nomination. 2012 for hosting Betty White's Off Their Rockers. We really need to stop and think about what that 61-year gap means in terms of like the actual work involved. Okay, let's break that down. A 1951 nomination, that's likely for performing live, black and white TV. Maybe some improv, dealing with clunky cameras, projecting your voice like you would on radio.
Exactly. It's a skill set tied to the limits and demands of live, immediate broadcasting. Now compare that to 2012, being nominated for Off Their Rockers. That's modern reality TV production. Highly edited, probably green screen work, coordinating pranks, relying on quick cuts.
Totally different world.
Completely different media sciences.
Yeah.
61 years apart.
Yeah.
And she had to master both and be recognized as excellent at both. That adaptability, that's got to be the secret sauce to her longevity.
And to make it even more incredible, the source notes that as of 2013, she was officially the oldest Emmy nominee ever at 91 years old.
91. Still breaking records. Most people are decades into retirement by then.
Seriously.
And she wasn't just racking up nominations. She was a genuine trailblazer in certain categories, too. Back in 1983, she became the first woman ever to win the Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Game Show Host. That was for Just Men.
Wow, I didn't know she was the first.
Yeah. That wasn't just a personal win. It cracked open a door for women hosts in a genre that had been totally dominated by men for decades. You know, the Bob Barkers, the Bill Cullens.
And her mastery wasn't just limited to TV. She also grabbed a competitive Grammy Award, won it in 2012 for Best Spoken Word Recording. That was for the audiobook of her memoir, If You Ask Me, and You Won't.
Right. And at 90 years old, that win made her the oldest competitive Grammy winner ever.
So she's got acting Emmys spanning decades, a groundbreaking hosting Emmy, and a record-setting Grammy for spoken word. That's incredible range.
It really is. The ability to translate that success across acting, hosting, writing, performing, it's just remarkable. From winning Best Actress way back in 1952 through all the comedy ensemble work right up to a Grammy in 2012, the industry recognized her talent across the board.
And it wasn't just awards. Major organizations gave her huge honors, confirming her legendary status among her peers. She was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame way back in 1995.
And the big honors just kept rolling in, right into her final decade. 2009, she was named a Disney legend. 2010, the Screen Actors Guild gave her their Life Achievement Award. Huge respect from fellow actors. And that same year, 2010, which was a massive year for her comeback, the Associated Press named her Entertainer of the Year. That showed her renewed relevance in the wider culture.
So the press, the acting guilds, big companies like Disney, everyone recognized her unique place. Now, switching gears just a little, the sources also touch briefly on her personal beliefs, which kind of grounds the legend a bit.
Yeah, that context is important too. It notes she was a practicing member of the Unity Church. And politically, she was a registered Democrat. She even publicly endorsed President Obama back in 2012.
Right, I remember reading that. She said something like, she likes how he represents us.
Exactly. And being willing to state her political views publicly, even when she was arguably at the peak of her America's Sweetheart phase, shows she had a strong sense of self and wasn't afraid to stand by her beliefs. It adds another interesting layer to her public image. So after this career, just unparalleled in its scope and length, we get to the final chapter. And it happened, kind of heartbreakingly, just short of her reaching a full century.
Yeah, the timing is really poignant. The specific details are important here, I think, to fully grasp the end of such a long life. Betty White died at her home in Los Angeles. The date was December 31st, 2021. She was 99 years old.
99. And the timing. Dying on New Year's Eve, just 17 days before what would have been her 100th birthday.
Everyone was getting ready to celebrate that 100th. There are magazine covers, specials planned.
Exactly. That closeness to the milestone, it just added this extra layer of sadness for the public, I think. A real sense of collective mourning.
And the cause of death, the sources are clear on this. It was due to problems caused by a stroke she'd had 6 days earlier.
Which brings a very specific, very human reality to the end of his life that felt almost mythic in scale.
So if we pull it all together now, we started way back with her 1951 Emmy nomination for Life with Elizabeth, where she was already a pioneering female producer in TV's infancy.
Right.
And we end with the fact that she was still winning major awards, like that Grammy in 2012, still getting Emmy nominations for Off the Rockers just 9 years before she passed away.
The sheer breadth of her active, award-winning career.
Yeah.
From the birth of TV right through to the era of digital pranks and social media fame. It's just unmatched.
Yeah.
And honestly, probably impossible to replicate today.
Yeah, the media landscape is just too fragmented now, isn't it?
Absolutely. Her level of success, that kind of sustained, almost universal fame,
Yeah.
it required not just incredible talent and amazing timing, but also this, well, almost ruthless ability to keep reinventing herself, to adapt to every single technological change, every cultural shift over 91 years.
So you had that grit from the Depression-era upbringing, the emotional depth maybe shaped by her marriage and loss, and that technical savvy she gained from being a producer so early on. All of it kind of came together to fuel that final triumphant decade.
Precisely. That combination of resilience and adaptability. That's what let her sustain the comedy, the work ethic, the relevance to run that incredible 61-year Emmy race. Insights.
Okay, so summing this up, we've looked at everything from her mixed European ancestry to her groundbreaking producer role in the 50s, the iconic characters, the records. What would you say are maybe the 3 key things, the factual markers that really define the sheer magnitude of Betty White's legacy for you listening?
Yeah, I think we can boil it down to 3 undeniable markers. First, that statistical impossibility, almost the 61-year span of major award nominations. That number alone confirms her continuous top-level relevance across completely different generations and technologies. It's a feat we'll likely never see again. Second, her pioneering role as a game show host, being the first woman to win that big Emmy in that category.
Yeah.
That marks her as a key figure in breaking down gender barriers in television, not just in acting, but in hosting too.
Good point.
And third, just her incredible viability as a star right up until age 99, successfully navigating from classic sitcoms to mastering modern formats, like using social media to fuel a comeback, hosting reality TV. She just kept adapting and succeeding.
She definitely reached this almost mythic status, didn't she? Always working, always loved, always defying expectations about aging, about celebrity.
And if we kind of zoom out from all those incredible accomplishments,
Yeah.
it does raise an interesting final thought. We spent all this time talking about the complexity of her career, the records, the comedy genius, the personal life, the endorsements, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the final detail of her life is so starkly simple and so profoundly human. A stroke 6 days prior, passing away just 17 days short of turning 100.
It's the ultimate contrast, isn't it? All that professional energy, that seeming invincibility, set against the unavoidable reality of human fragility in the end.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder of her humanity, despite the almost superhuman career. The deep dive confirms she was this absolute force of nature and entertainment, but still ultimately bound by time like the rest of us. So as a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on, we started this whole thing talking about her as a pioneer on Life with Elizabeth.
Right, back in the 50s.
Given how huge her later career became, and knowing that show earned her very first Emmy nomination way back in 1951, what specific things about that early production work might be worth digging into next? Maybe exploring the actual technical challenges of making TV back then. That might be the perfect way to really appreciate the full arc of her journey, from those absolute earliest days all the way to 2021.